Today on Locked On Canadiens, Martin St. Louis' first win, Cole Caufield is in God mode, and the Friday mailbag.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 555 of Locked On Canadiens, your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, and you can subscribe on all platforms. My name is Laura Saba, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined by Scott Matla, normally of Habs Eyes on the Prize, but today of Extremely In His Feelings. Hi, Scott. How are you doing?
So I would like to apologize. I kind of jumped the gun on the Canadiens Blues games after Pavel Buchnevich scored with about a minute and 20 seconds left. I went, this is why we can't have nice things. The team played well. They did all these things great, and it was exciting. And they're going to lose because one dude decided, I'm going to put this little puck right over the goalie's shoulder, unstoppable. And I'm like, well, this sucks. They're going to lose again. And then I sent my stupid little tweet off into the void, in which I was immediately proven wrong as Cole Caufield scored to tie the game and sent it into overtime. Martin St. Louis bouncing around on the bench after his win. Josh Anderson and Arturi Lehkonen are fist bumping. Jeff Petrie and Cole Caufield are hugging after an overtime win. I am very deep into my feelings tonight because we haven't had a win in a month.
Since January 19, I think?
18th.
January 18th, yeah.
It's been a month. It's been 10-game losing streaks and just miserable hockey. And now they finally got a win. It's hard to not like what we saw tonight against St. Louis, who's a good team, against one of the best goaltenders in the NHL so far this year in Ville Husso. And they did the damn thing. And it's not hard to be excited about that, honestly.
I'll do you one better. Before Cole Caufield tied the game, I was like, oh, this game is over. I'm going to go to the washroom. And then I come out of the washroom and there's celebrations all over the place. So I missed not only that game-tying goal, but I also missed the win.
So didn't we learn in the playoffs, though, is that when you have to go to the bathroom, they do amazing things, and that's why they win games, in that you watched an entire game. Was it the Toronto series?
No, it was in the Vegas series. I had to go because I think Vegas scored first, I think. Something happened, I can't remember. And then I went to the washroom and the Canadiens tied it. I remember Josh Anderson scored. So I went to the washroom, I came back out, and Vegas scored again. So I had to take my iPad into the washroom and literally just sit there for like 2.5 hours. I did come out in the intermissions, though. I only watched the literal gameplay in the washroom. But that's kind of how it is with this team, and it's fun to be having fun again. And honestly, it's one win, right? And one win in 4 games for Martin St. Louis. It is his first win, as he said post-game. He's happy about it, but he's a lot happier for his dad, who was starting to get a little bit stressed out about him not having any wins. But Scott, I think you'll agree with me in that these 4 games, that, one win in 4 games, the habits of the Montreal Canadiens have been getting better.
And that's the thing, is this entire game was good habits and good efforts. And I think that distills down to the point there is effort. The Canadiens don't get back down the ice, score that goal with the goalie pulled. If Brendan Gallagher, in a game that is completely meaningless to the Canadian season this year, doesn't go diving Superman, swipe the puck away from an empty net, and avoid hitting the net and knocking it off its moorings, as John Lou pointed out, which would have been a defensive zone faceoff, and they can't get set up at the other end of the ice to score that goal with Cole Caufield. Effort. And we saw that all over the place, even when things were tough in this game, like when the Blues were pushing in the third period, the effort was there. It didn't feel like no one was trying or wasn't trying. Everyone pulled their weight tonight. Samuel Montembeault was very good. I thought, and I'm writing an article about this for Eisenbrecht, Corey Schoeneman was very surprising. And I think the biggest thing is Jeff Petrie, who has had such a brutally tough season, has begun to look more and more like the Jeff Petrie we know he can be He rang a really nice shot off the crossbar after he, kind of skated backwards, found a shooting lane, and he clanged it off the inside of the upper 90 there. And he set up Cole Caufield's overtime winner. And he had an assist. I can't remember if it was the overtime or the one to get to overtime, or if it was on Paul Byron's goal, which we haven't even talked about that. Paul Byron played his 500th NHL game and scored his goal tonight. And I'm just so full of feelings in this game here, and that this is the kind of way I want them to play. They're not going to win every game because sometimes posts aren't going to go their way. Sometimes the puck's going to bounce off Montembeau's butt and go in the net. It happens, but the process is there. We weren't seeing that with Dominique Ducharme's system, in that it looked like 5 guys skating on the ice at any given time. This time it was get the puck, get it deep, get chances, play off the rush, play with speed, and they did that. There were a lot of guys and a lot of people who are looking to pull their weight now because they know Tyler Toffoli's gone. There isn't a soul on this team I think is considered safe unless you're Caufield, Suzuki, or Romanov. And everyone's got to put that effort in. And even the guys who are safe are putting in that effort too, because you know what? They're sick of losing, and we're sick of losing. And they went, you know what? No, we're getting this win. And I can't wait to be potentially wrong about this again. Can they build on it against the Islanders in the next game? Systems are the concepts are in place. Teams playing better hockey. Let's see what they can do this weekend.
So I think one of the things that you mentioned that I did want to touch back on is 5 guys just skating around the ice. For a long time, we criticized their play in this season because they all looked like they had just met each other for the first time, and they looked like that every game. That's not something that we want to see. We want to see people who have confidence, and who, even if they make, like Martin St. Louis said, I'd rather my guys make the wrong reads than make no reads at all. Even if they made mistakes, they would at least be making an effort to play together. And that's something that has dramatically improved over the last 4 or 5 games. That's something that they're obviously going to have to build on. I just want to touch on something real quick. Scott, we have very, very little time, but now that both the US and Canada men's teams have been eliminated, I just wanted your thoughts on Sean Farrell's tournament.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the women's game for a second. I'm like, I'm not prepared.
No,
to
I'm gonna brag about that later when I have time. This is a very short amount of time. I just want some small assists boy praise, or is it now small goals boy 2.0? Now that given the way that he's played.
Small. I can't even go small college goals boy because they're both small college goals boys. I think Farrell, obviously a lot of his points came in that game against China, but at the same time, I still think he assessed himself or put himself in a good position there. I think he's played really well at Harvard this season. He's already said he's going back for at least next year, which is fine. He did lose a year of his development, and I think it was good for a lot of people to see what he's capable of. I don't think he's going to be an elite goal scorer at the NHL level by any means, but I think he's got the smarts and the vision to become a really nice playmaker and, chip in some goals there. I'm very happy with the way that went. If you told me that he was going to be one of the top scorers in the men's tournament, I would have been like, did everyone else die? But it's a really solid tournament from him. Obviously coach didn't play him a ton. He's still one of the younger guys on the team. Across the board, though, it's not hard to be happy with what we saw there.
And, that's the thing is, I look at him as a secondary scoring kind of guy. He's not going to be the anchor of your team, but he's always going to be the kind of guy that you want on your team in order to be able to get far, right? That's the way that I look at it. There's a Jake Evans type of guys that are the defensive version of that. And then there's a Sean Farrell type of guys that are providing your additional play, additional offense. That's kind of how I want to see him. And based on what you're saying right now, that's definitely a positive. And we are going to turn our attention to the mailbag right away. I have been I've been rambling on enough. But before we get into the mailbag, I just want to remind everybody that Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. It is delicious. We love Built Bar on this podcast. I use it as breakfast because I can't be bothered to make breakfast, and then I find myself hungry in the middle of the day. And cranky and also not able to focus on my work. So Built Bar is great for that because you wake up. I even put it in front of my computer at my workstation in my home office, so that I wake up and the first thing I have is a Built Bar. It is full of protein. It gives you so much energy. It is low in sugar and it is so delicious. They're all made with real chocolate. They've occasionally got like these crazy special edition flavors that are always delicious, but their 18 regular flavors are really good as well. And like I said, they're going to give you that energy, whether you're about to hike, whether you need an on-the-go pick-me-up, whether you need a snack that's a treat, but also will tide you over until your next meal, whether, before or after workout and before or after a workout. And like I said, we swear by these bars and you will too. If you want to try them, go to built.com and enter promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's built.com, enter promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Thanks for making Locked On Canadiens your first listen every day, but make sure to also check out Olympic Hockey Daily presented by Locked On NHL. That's a bonus podcast covering all the action in Beijing. Well, right now the hockey tournaments are ending, but Anne and Rachel and Erica have done such a great job over the past 2 weeks, so you do not want to miss their tournament wrap-ups. You're going to find it on the Locked On NHL podcast feed. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and like I said, our fellow Locked On hosts have really killed it. You really want to check out all those episodes. They've been fantastic. And a note, Erica Ayala has been in Beijing. So we're getting a lot of inside information. But we're going to turn ourselves right now. We're going to turn our attention to the mailbag. But I just want to take a moment real quick and brag about Team Canada. We didn't make a bet this time, which we kind of should have. I feel like Scott's always going to end up on the losing end of these things, which is why I'm volunteering to eat something disgusting on video if we get to 500 subscribers by March 1st. Also, we have like a massive guest that we're lining up, like massive, actually truly massive guest that we're lining up in the next couple of weeks. So you really want to be subscribed on YouTube. Just look for Locked On Canadiens and click that subscribe button. And at some point, I will learn to make a bet on this team because they are a phenomenal hockey team. Like I was watching it last night and I was like, emotional investment at this point, it's like, I'm too old for that. I'm just enjoying just how delightfully good Team Canada's women are. And I do think that, it was a fun game. And I did before the game actually started, I was actually quite nervous that the USA was going to pull the win out. But all of this to say is I think I've made Scott feel bad enough for that. And I will start with our first mailbag question. Actually, it's two mailbag questions that come from Jamie in our email. So if you ever want to email us any questions, thoughts, comments, you can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. And Jamie did just that. Two questions for you this week. Question one, are NHL players allowed to wear a full face cage if they want to? And if so, why don't they?
The weird part is that I believe they are allowed to. They just can't not wear a visor unless they were grandfathered in, which there are not many players of that era left. I think a lot of them don't because it restricts some vision that they might see, that might restrict peripheral vision. And when you're playing at the NHL level, that can be tough if you can't always see when you got to be looking over your shoulder. And I know that this is a gift that we can use with this episode. The men are not okay and refuse to wear that because it's not tough. So, it is kind of dumb. And I prefer I play with one when I go and play hockey because I don't need a puck hitting me in the mouth because I don't have an NHL doctor on staff to fix my teeth. So I believe they can. It's just a lot don't opt for it just because of it impairs vision and stuff when you're out on the ice.
Yeah, I feel like the only time you ever see it is when a player's injured in the face somewhere, and they're trying to protect that injury from getting more injured. And then this one, we had a little bit of fun with this one this evening prior to recording. This one will test your hockey knowledge. Brad Marchand received his 8th suspension for a total of 28 games this week, not including players who have received a lifetime ban from hockey, Who has the most games suspended in history? Not the most suspensions, the most games. I have no idea. I just thought I would send Scott down a wormhole. Well, it was Scott and myself and our friend Kyle Demetrius of Locked On Sharks. And there are two players that are in the running for this. Scott, do you want to do the honors?
So the easy one for me was Rafi Torres, who was suspended for 25 games and 41 games in separate incidents of garbageness on the ice. And then garbageness. There's other words I wanted to use, but this is a family-friendly podcast. So, and the other one was, I believe it was Chris Simon, who was suspended 15 games for whacking a dude in the face with a stick. I believe that was Michael Holloweg of the New York Rangers. And then he also stepped on someone walking off the ice. He sees the guy there and with his skate stomped on him. And I believe he got 25 games for that. And I believe they're the ones with the most total games without having done a deep dive. But I want to say those are the two options here, at least in terms of
so they're both in the like 60 something.
Yeah, Rafi Torres, I think Kyle said, was 71 games, and Chris Simon was at 60 something, which is a lot.
65, I think. Yeah, that's what the gentlemen were able to discover. If we're wrong, please, trivia heads, please tell us if we are wrong, and we will correct ourselves on our next episode. All right, so then we've got our Twitter questions. If you want to tweet us questions, you can always tweet us at LO_Canadiens. So either method is fine. You can request topics. You can send us mailbag questions. You can also complain about Brad Marchand on there if you want. That's okay. Any 3-1 jokes? It was 3-1 jokes. Those are welcome on both our feeds as well. Scott, you're waving at me. Is there news?
No, I think I might have an answer, though, but I don't know if this counts. Slava Voinov was suspended for 10.5 years from the NHL.
That does not count.
Because it was off ice, correct? Like, that doesn't count, correct?
Yeah, like, they were just like, you have domestic violence in your record. You can't play in the NHL for that.
I am looking at this. Todd Bertuzzi got suspended for 17 months. 20 games, 13 regular season games, plus 7 playoff games. Alexander Pergozin was suspended 89 games when he played for the Hamilton Bulldogs when he slashed Garrett Stafford in the head. He was suspended for the entire following season in the AHL.
Why?
Are the men okay? Are the men okay? And the answer is no. So
the answer is always no.
I do think the answer is Rafi Torres, though, at least based on this, because I've already seen his name pop up twice. He got 21 games for an check to the head of Marian Hossa. Originally, 25 games were reduced to 21 for some reason, and he followed that up by immediately hitting someone the next season. So I'm going to stick with my Rafi Torres pick here.
I think you're right. All right, we have time for one question in this.
All right, segment. And this comes from Randy Hansen. Who do you hope gets hired to head an expanded or created analytics department for Montreal? Someone like Jack Hahn, perhaps? Jack Hahn is
very smart. I think he's incredibly intelligent. I do think, though, that if you're building a team, you need a team. And I will say this, and I'll go on the record as saying this. I think Allison Lucan, who currently does TV for the Seattle Kraken, is somebody who I would love to see hired by the Montreal Canadiens, not because she's somebody that I'm a fan of personally, but because she's really good at interpreting data. She's good at understanding data. She's good at presenting data, and she's good at translating data to the layperson. So she's somebody that I think would be really great at kind of talking to players if they want, coaching staff if they want, the management staff, kind of bridging that gap between the analytics and the actual, players and front office. I think that like Jack Hahn would be really good as a pure like research and data gathering person, creating plans and things like that. But I feel like Allison can kind of bridge that gap. And that would be where I would start. Like I would start there. Like I would build an entire team. You're the Montreal Canadiens. You've got a lot of money. Just like get the best people and get the best data.
I agree with that. And we've had Allison on this show 2 or 3 times, maybe more. It's been a lot of episodes. So you can actually listen to how she interprets things. She's phenomenal, and any team that would be able to have her in their front office in some way, shape, or form, I think would be truly lucky. Seattle has a very good one there. She is outstanding at what she does, and I think that it's only a matter of time before an NHL team comes calling full time, especially with the moves we've seen teams like Vancouver make in recent weeks.
Right, exactly, and I absolutely agree with that. But I think Jack Hunt is a good suggestion by Randy, because he's really smart. He's really good at the hockey research and observation aspect of it, and sort of pulling information that you need. He's good at tactics and stuff. So definitely those would be very, very high on my list. That's where I would start. But my dream hire is Allison Lukan. All right, we are going to get to the rest of our Twitter questions in just one moment. But first, football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, Scott, what do we have in the mailbag? I sense that there were some difficult questions out there.
This one comes from @KChirps. You get to snatch a defenseman from any team. Who and why?
I think Victor Hedman is currently the best defenseman playing in the NHL, but he's a veteran, so I would get Adam Fox.
I wasn't expecting that.
Why? You disagree?
No, I don't. That's the thing, is that there's a lot of like really good defensemen out there. I look at someone like an Aaron Ekblad, I almost said Drew Doughty, and that's just a lie.
No, we are not getting Drew Doughty in this market. He is washed up, and he's an old school defenseman. We've had enough of that. We want modern defensemen in the NHL.
I think someone like Adam Fox. I do think someone like Aaron Ekblad would be really nice. Victor Hedman's always a really good choice. And I really like Oliver Shillington from the Calgary Flames as well. He was on waivers.
He's underrated.
He is. And that's why I think he could be a huge piece of this team going forward, because you got to figure Sherratt's gone. They're likely losing Petrie in the near future. They're going to be losing Kulak. Someone like Oliver Shillington is that guy who can take that next step, I think, and be a part of this team for the future. So he's my underrated pick, but I'm going to have to probably go with Victor Hedman, just because dude can eat minutes, play in all three zones.
He's literally the best defenseman in the NHL right now.
Yes.
Yes.
This comes from Randy Hansen. You can have as many coaches as you want for player development. What skill do you hire a coach for first?
A mental skills coach.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, can we get a sports psychologist in here to be like, hey, you're just going to work with Jeff for like a week, okay? Because like we need him back pretty badly. Besides that, my first thought is skating. Always skating. It's a speed league.
Yes.
And we saw it against the Blues, and that they use some of that finesse, teach more dudes to do finessey things and put more pucks in the net, because that's how you win hockey games, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that this management team looks like the type of team that would hire a skating coach. I would not be surprised if they beef that up. And also goaltending. They need a lot of things, this team right now.
This one comes from Emily. Where in the rule book does it say we can't sign someone from Team Canada?
I'm honestly not sure, but if we're getting our pick, I think we should start with Marie-Philippe Poulin.
Well, duh.
I mean, why not?
Like,
She's
come
a
on.
Quebecer. She's the literal best hockey player in the league. She's a hometown girl. Like I
have had two names.
That's where I would start.
I have two names that I want, that if it was possible, is that you sign Marie-Philippe Poulin and you sign Hillary Knight, two of the former the Fabs, as they were called when they were here in Montreal.
The Canadiens.
Yes, thank you, because I'm not going to.
And they're also Montreal based. They're both Montreal based. So
yes, and now I want a line that is just Poulin, Knight, and then Caufield, where Caufield will be the shortest person on that line still. And that's hilarious because Hillary Knight's as tall as I am. Like compared to Cole Caufield, she's gigantic. And I really, really need that because I think it would be amazing.
She's a literal foot taller than I am.
She's you've been in her presence, so you know how tall she is.
Yes.
We have one from Goalie Droid. What trade would you hate to see? Not necessarily because of what the Habs would get back, but because the player would be on a team that you can't stand or support, so now he has to be dead to you.
Well, Leafs fans have been coveting Jeff Petrie. So that to me is the worst one.
It's not going to happen.
I can't.
They're getting Ben Sherratt, and they're going to like it. And you're going to have to deal with that because I'm going to go back into my mentions from the playoffs, and I'm going to read all that bull crap y'all were talking about Ben Sherratt and watch you try and talk him up as the guy who's going to maybe get you out of the first round for the first time in forever. And when he doesn't, I'm going to laugh all the way to the bank with my brand new shiny Topi Niemela or a first round pick and go, ha ha, and then watch you panic for an entire offseason while nothing changes. But we're not going to delve into that too much because I don't have the energy to do that again. From Jeff the Red, when the dust has settled after the trade deadline, how many first-round picks do you think the Habs will have in 2022 and 2023?
In 2022, they currently have 3, but 1 is going to Arizona. Is that?
Yes. The lower of ours or Carolina's goes to Arizona.
The Carolina pick.
Yes, which, because the Habs are going to finish in the draft lottery, and it's draft protected. So no matter what, they default to the lower of the 2 picks. And they have 1 for 2023 right now as well, unless the Flames somehow fall into the draft lottery, and then that regresses to 2023. I think they end up with at least 4, potentially 5, depending on who comes out of the trade deadline, honestly.
This year, I think I'm looking at 4 for this year. And then I feel like they're going to try next year to have another 3 or 4 in the first round.
I think a lot too depends on, do they want guys who are on the cusp of being NHL ready prospects and they can, rebuild that way, which is the same as, hey, we drafted these guys here and we have them in the system now. And I think the Ben Sherratt trade is going to be very telling of that. Is it just going to be a first round pick and like some guy to make salary work? Or is it going to be, here's a prospect, a second round pick, and that'll be very telling, I think, of what they want. It's going to be exciting, that's for sure, because I like both of these things because I like prospects as a hockey person.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, we love prospects, but you can't have all these entry-level contracts coming to an end at the same time.
Ask Toronto how that went. It doesn't go well for you. So
yeah, you got to stagger it. So that's why I like a good mix of picks and prospects. All right. What else have we got in the mailbag?
One more from Jeff the Red. Will the Flames be your playoff team this year?
Yes.
Yes. Subscribe to Scorch Stack. Duh.
Yes.
This is the only answer. I am rooting for Tyler Toffoli, but I do generally actually like the Flames. I've always had a soft spot for them because they're in the West and we only see them twice a year. And it's usually not very stupid when we play them, and their fans have been chill enough in my mentions. So always good with the Flames.
Yes. Subscribe to Scorch Stack. They had the Tyler Toffoli thing first. Always credit Scorch Stack.
Always credit the Scorch Stack, or Scorch will come to your house. And when Scorch comes to your house, you no longer have a house. So from Guy Guerin on Twitter, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Sherratt to Calgary in exchange for a first-round pick and their current third-line winger, not Dubé, the other one. He kind of stands like a teapot sometimes, ?
I think you know what? I'm going to miss Tyler Toffoli so much, and I'm so glad that I'm not the only one. I'm so glad that, like, as a fan base, we all feel the same way.
I absolutely love this idea, by the way, but I do think if they're going to trade for anyone, it's going to end up being Dylan Dubé anyways, because that seems like something the Canadiens would do.
That's definitely something the Canadiens would do.
Yeah. Mark Bergevin definitely would, but he'd probably trade for Lucic while we were at it, which just no thank you. And one final question. This one's actually directed to me from Kevin Soon. For Scott, I'm an Oregonian, I think. And a committed beer homer. What's the perception of Oregon beer out east? Do people out there like it as much as we do, or are we just seen as one big IPA factory? So without getting too much into this, because we do have limited time, and if I talk about beer, we're going to be here for 3 hours. Every state is becoming an IPA factory because it is the predominant style that is the most popular in terms of taps and in terms of what gets packaged, because that's what people are looking for right now. But I know places like DeGard and other places out there have a very good reputation. And I think Oregon's a bit underrated because Washington's very good, and also California's right underneath it. I think I have those states properly lined up here. If not, don't tell the government, I swear. So they kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit there, but we don't get a ton from the state, which is hard because of distribution laws, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think it has a negative perception as just an IPA factory. I think people who know beer know what other places to look for out there. Same with any other state. So there are great IPAs coming out of Oregon. It is not just an IPA factory, though.
And with that, that is our Friday mailbag, and we are going to return to being in our feelings over Martin St. Louis' first win and all the post-game comments coming out of that. Thank you so much for listening to us, and we will be back on Monday. In the meantime, if you ever want to send us a mailbag question, you can send it to us at lockedoncanadians@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at LO_Canadians. You can find myself on Twitter at The Active Stick. You'll find Scott at Scott Matla. And please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube, or both. Both is good. Both is great. If you like this podcast, check out Locked On Bets, where they are absolutely killing it lately.